Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Four Friends in a Book podcast. My name is Chris Colston, and I'm here with my friends Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, The Real Reed, and this book, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rita Walker. Woo! Look, we starting the new year off with a bang. Happy 2024, our
Right,
first
Happy New Year.
edition
right.
of Four Friends in the Book podcast for 2024. So if you're new to the channel, Four Friends in the Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together. And so we meet here to discuss that book, to review it, to talk about it,
Mhm.
and also talk about just current events, things that are going on, hot topics, things that are trending on in the world. And of course, at the end, we hit you with these rants. So somewhat of a book club, book review mixed with table talk amongst friends, and the
Mhm.
rant man at the end that cleans up the show each time, Mr. Isaiah Tukes. So again, if you haven't already, please go back, check out our old episodes. Get current and caught up with Four Friends in the Book podcast, and tell a friend to tell a friend about Four Friends in the Book because we read books up here and we have great and awesome discussions. So
Mhm.
all right, let's get into it. January 2024. Look, we in the new year, y'all. We done made it. Made it into a
Okay.
new year. And what better way to kick off a new year to really just talk about mental health,
Mhm.
to kind of prepare ourselves to kind of level set the year and get us going. And so again, the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rita Walker is our book for January 2024, kicking this new year off. We're getting our minds right over here, y'all. We're getting our minds right. Um, Good selection, good read, and we're gonna talk about it. But look, before we get into it, I just want to read a quick. Your boy love quotes, man. Read a quick.
Of course.
Let me get this quote.
So I thought it was very setting. Very fitting for just kind of the start of the show. And so I'm gonna read these two quotes from the book, and then we're gonna talk about it and discuss it and get into it. But
Mhm.
one of the quotes I found very interesting was, and I quote: "So most of us will take major illness for ourselves and our loved ones very seriously. When it comes to our own minds, however, we settle with just hoping for the best."
Mhm.
And so another quote was, "Ideally, you seek therapy before crisis so you can learn skills to manage your life rather than continuously hoping that things will work out." So I thought that was very fitting because I think a lot of people do take, mental health and their minds as kind of an
Mhm.
afterthought. And again, we're always kind of wishful thinking and hoping that things will get better or that we'll just kind of figure out a way. And so with this book, I think Dr. Walker kind of outlines a good path plan forward for really identifying issues within mental health and also kind of providing practical steps for you to kind of figure that out and get the help that you may need. So
Mhm.
uh, let's get into it. I wanted to kick it off with that, but let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's get our minds right over here on Four Friends in the Book. So, first question, y'all already know what it is. We ask it every episode. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? And Miss Kimberly Lake, coming to you, kick it off. What you got?
Okay. Well, when we said we're going to read this book, because shout out to Isaiah, he recommended it. I was just like, all right. Like I had no high hopes for it, but I was pleasantly surprised. I listened to the audiobook on Audible, and the book is very practical. It has a lot of heavy topics in it, like suicide, mental health, all that stuff, but it's still a lightness to it. So it's not like you're depressed and like heavy listening to it. It still has like a sense of like, I don't know, a hope with it. So I think it's a great listen for anybody. The word I keep thinking about is practical. She gives you like step by step practical tips, and even it breaks down examples where you're like, oh, I understand that. Okay, how you can react to certain situations and what you can do. So I really did love the book. So thank you, Isaiah. I thought I took a lot of good tips for myself from it. If I had to rate it between 1 and 10, I would actually give it a 9 because I really
Okay.
enjoyed it. And the audiobook is great. I don't know if she read it or somebody else, but the voice reading the book is really good too. So
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the book, and I feel like my mental health is better for it.
Okay. Mental health with a 9. Look, and one of the things that even Dr. Walker kind of recommends is kind of seeing how you fit on the scale, from 0 to 10. So on our scale, we already got a 9 over here starting off with this book. So all right. So coming to the person that we never know what we're gonna get from him, Mr. Isaiah Toots, bro. Now I'm
Who me?
anticipating, yeah, I'm anticipating not a whole lot better than what we had for last month. We ain't gonna even talk about that. But man, what did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be?
Well, to keep that aura going from what Kim and she passed it over to me because I have good aura from this book. You know, the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health is important work that highlights the mental health issues that Black people face and the impact it just have on our lives. What was most important to me about this book, it just basically, like Kim said, it was practical and it provided tools for addressing these problems that we have that we don't really like to talk about. And after becoming more intentional about my own mental health, this book was the perfect read to start this new year. Mental health is an intimidating and a sensitive topic about the in the Black community, especially the Black man. If I'm speaking directly to me, and this book helped me to actually unpack a lot of baggage that I had that I carried on through, that passed on from my father and passed on from his father, and I was able to, just see how that we contribute towards our own demise by delaying the professional help that we all need and we should actually be seeking for. And I'm actually glad that Dr. Walker did provide a lot of actionable items that will help us take the first step to actually go onto our mental health journey. Because we have to stop telling Black people, especially with trauma and mental health issues, that Jesus is all you need. They need more than Jesus. They need tangible resources and strategy because you can have Jesus and a therapist. And this was a great read for me, and I rated this book also a 9.
Okay,
That's
Okay,
good.
9.
That's
Okay,
good.
9. Look, I always be worried when I go to my boy because I just never know what we go get. But I mean, he did recommend this book for this month, so I'm glad he in the fold this month. So, all
Mhm.
right, Laria, coming to you to keep this train rolling. What did you think about the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rita Walker?
It was very good. How should I say it? All of the things that came, the first thing that came to mind was practical.
Hmm.
She gave a lot of practical steps of how to do it because I know we say you need a therapist, but people don't understand why and for what.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I don't think in our community we even understand the traumas that we faced and are facing, even though we didn't come up in the civil rights movement. So it's like, oh, I'm fine. Ain't no
That's
problem
true.
with me. But
That's
we
true.
do have a lot of things. One thing that I will say about her book when she was talking about suicide and all that, it was very triggering to me
Hmm.
because of one of my friends that died from suicide. And I was thinking about all the signs that I didn't know at the time. And I just didn't have a grasp on my own mental health in that
Hmm.
sense. I was just kind of getting into counseling for myself. But I just didn't know. And so for me, I just feel like so many people, everybody needs to read this book because
Hmm.
it really gives you the resources so that you know how to deal with things because we're just
Hmm.
so good at telling people what they need, but we don't show
Hmm.
them how. And she talked about with the suicide, with how to check in with yourself, how to see where you are, be honest with where you are. And I think sometimes we always talk to people and say, you need to go to the doctor if you're having back problems or whatever. But if
Hmm.
you see somebody constantly sad, constantly, out of character or secluded from people, we don't encourage them like, hey, let me take you to there, let's go to the doctor because that's really where
Hmm.
you're going. It's just for your mind.
That's
And I
true.
think that we just have to take that off. But I enjoy it. Look, I'm going into question 2, 3, and 4. But I think that it was an excellent book. I
Hmm.
wished I would have had this resource from her like years upon years ago because
Me
she's
too.
making it normalized, so to
Me
speak,
too.
especially in our culture. And I don't think people understand Black culture doesn't, as a whole, we don't do therapy. It's looked at like, oh my God, you're so weak, you have to go to a therapist.
Hmm.
When it should be, I'm so in touch and so strong that I know to get my strength higher, I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I give it an 8. It was a solid. It could be a 9, could be a 10 for some. It was an 8 for me. I loved it. I thought it was excellent, well written, well
Mm-hmm.
thought out, and well executed.
Good.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So two nines and an eight on this book. So let me wrap it up, man. I agree with you guys completely. And that's kind of why I led with the quotes that I opened up with. I think, especially in the black community, we do tend to not talk about mental health, not address it. And I think we've kind of, like to Laria's point, we've kind of been conditioned that if you seek help in those areas that something is wrong, or you're kind of weak, or you're not able to,
Right.
you don't
Right.
have the tenacity or the capability to kind of endure certain things. And I think it's a misconception that we
Mm-hmm.
have. And again, we'll take any other illness, any other physical trauma, our loved ones, things that may happen to them. We take those very seriously. But when it comes to mental health, we put that on the back burner. And also, we don't prepare ourselves because life be life,
That's
It
and
true.
do.
That's
at
true.
some point you will face something that is kind of really beyond your control, and it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
mental warfare. I mean, it's in your head. And so I think this book definitely gives you the tools of
Mm-hmm.
trying to identify those things, and even walk through the process of even trying to find a counselor, a therapist, and what that looks like. I really love the fact that she really spoke to, like, the black culture as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting how she pointed out the fact that, there is a difference. Typically when you think about mental health, there's known that there's differences between like men and women, but there are also cultural differences that play a strong part. And even to Isaiah's point, typically in the black culture, we talk about, going to church, praying to God, but you still need to, your prayer without works is still not sufficient. It's not enough. And we still have to seek out help in other areas. And so I think she really just speaks to the audience, to us as a people. And I really appreciate that, because I think it is much needed, because typically we don't talk about mental health and we kind of gloss over it as a whole. So if I had to rate the book on a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, I think I'm kind of in part with Laria. I'm gonna give it an 8 as well. It was definitely a good read, very practical. I mean, very straightforward, and I agree. I think this is something that someone should read prior to even facing any mental challenges or even any hurdles, because it gives you a course of action. It gives you a pathway to what trauma looks like, and also how to navigate it, and to seek help, and even giving you practical steps to kind of put into practice, for yourself, even prior to getting to that point. So very good book, very good selection. Again, I give it an 8, and I think it's definitely necessary, especially just to kick the year off, and get your mental fitness kind of in line, in order, as you start this new year off. So all right, so two nines and
And two
two eights.
eights.
All right, so we doing good. We doing
I
good.
know,
Look,
right? That never
Right.
happens.
boy, I tell you about last month when my boy Isaiah just,
Check it out. Word
I,
up.
I know.
yeah. If you guys haven't read Worthy or even checked that episode out, go back to last month. Isaiah had nothing but smoke for
Yeah.
Jada, man. It was different, but I'm glad that we got a cohesive unit on this review of this book. And again, I think it's very needed. So
Mm-hmm.
let's dig a little deeper. So Dr. Rita Walker definitely talks about a lot of different topics within the book.
Mm-hmm.
Some traditional things that we kind of know of, from, like, psychology, um, therapy, the study of the mind, but also some things that we may not have been familiar with as well. I mean, even touching on, like I just mentioned, that there are some cultural differences when we think about mental health, that culturally may impact how one may view their mental health, or what approaches they may take with it. Discussions about racism, anxiety, suicide, even your diets and how those things
Mm-hmm.
and have an impact as well. So just speaking from that perspective, both the traditional and kind of non-traditional aspects of just black mental health. Did you guys, I guess, gain any new insight, or was there anything that really was kind of just eye-opening for you as you were reading or listening to this book? Or were there things that you even found that you didn't agree with as you were kind of stepping through this process of kind of unpacking the unapologetic guide to black mental health by Dr. Rita Walker? And so I'm gonna come to my good brother Isaiah, man. What were your thoughts as far as just the narrative surrounding black mental health? Did you learn anything new? Was something that you didn't agree with, or whatever it may have been for you?
Okay. Well, I first want to start with like some weeks ago I purchased this book by Audrey Lord, and it was interesting that Dr. Walker actually quoted one of Audrey Lord's quote, and I think the quote was basically just caring for myself is just not self-indulgence, but it's just self-preservation that is not an act of political warfare. And it made me think about, okay, this is ringing a bell. So that's what made me go back to that book. So that was an interesting thing. And Chris, you're making me a quote guy, and I'm usually not a quote guy. But Dr. Walker also stated in this book as well too is hope, as in I hope things to get better would not be a strategy. And I think you even stated earlier that we all like to quote the famous verse, "Faith without works is dead." And I think people are really good at having faith, but it's the works that they have to put into actions, and
Mhm.
the negative connotation that we have to actually end is like when people actually seek therapy, it's not basically that they're on the verge of a mental breakdown. It's basically that you're just trying to navigate through life, as you stated earlier, and you're just trying to get some clarity or trying to handle some situations. And I even think Laria even mentioned that about one of her friends committed suicide, and I had a family member as well that committed suicide, and I had to actually go and view the body. So when she's talking about that, that's bringing up some old wounds that I had to rip off,
Mhm.
and and then bringing up like some old things that I thought I actually suppressed, and it was just like, whoa, this has hit me with a ton of bricks. But the thing with that is that I basically had already had talked with the counselor about the issue that I was dealing with, that situation, of how I actually got better. And what I liked about this book is reaffirmed that a lot of the things I did not know, but it actually taught me a lot as well too about the practicality of actually, going to speak with somebody, that is not taboo. Like when you're dealing with something, it is best to actually talk with somebody. Sometimes your friends does not have that capacity of actually, taking me through the steps, even though they're good at probably listening. But
Right.
sometimes I need some actions that actually go behind those listen words that I actually speak, because I just don't want to sit on these thoughts. Like I want somebody, just give me the tools of like, okay, it's okay that you're feeling this way, but these are some of the steps that you can actually get to help you take you to the next level. So I'm glad that she actually talked about that. And the best thing is like to learn your triggers and actually to set boundaries. And some of the things that I actually liked about it as well too. I don't want to go on a rant, but we have to actually get through some stuff, because we don't like to talk about the stuff that we're actually not healed from. Like a lot of
Right.
stuff I'm still dealing with as well. Like I'm not healed from, and you have to actually be conducive about what you're going through and be honest with yourself. So I actually, those are some of the tools they actually got from the book. And, like I said, she hit it out the park with that. I like a lot of the strategies, a lot of the practicality. Even though she talked about a religion a lot as well too, but she talks about those tools that go with that religion. Like I stated earlier, like we love Jesus, He's the head of my life, but I need those tools as well too to get through those tough times.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Laria, coming to you next. So, again, just the whole narrative around Black mental health.
Mhm.
Dr. Walker definitely takes a non-traditional approach, and again, I think for our culture, we can all relate because again, like Isaiah mentioned, she talks about the spiritual aspect, the physical and mental aspects, and how we have historically kind of suppressed some of these mindsets and ideas about seeking help. So,
Right.
um, were there anything that she discussed or hit on that really stood out or resonated with you, or even if it was something that you didn't quite agree with that she kind of mentioned as far as a strategy or a narrative surrounding Black mental health?
Well, I was cool with with mostly everything she said. I didn't have any rebuttals to anything. The thing, and I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, that I took from it because I was like, let me read this for myself because
Mhm.
I need to be taking away some stuff. But just checking in with me, and what I mean by that, and what she said was like, what my number is, where am
Mhm.
I in my life, and I think it's good when I'm starting to every day when I wake up in the morning. I'm like, where am I today? And I
Mhm.
notice when I have a heavier workload, I'm like, oh, I'm at a 3 today. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
at a 6 today. Okay. But I think that that's very vital so that if you start saying I'm at a 2, I'm at a 2, I'm at a 2, okay, I need to be getting some help now because this is
Mhm.
becoming too repetitive. And even
Mhm.
with our coping mechanisms, am I going out more? And for some people, am I drinking? Am I overeating? Am I overdoing anything that's showing me the signs and the symptoms of I'm having a crisis and I'm just not looking like it, to other people. So I just I really enjoyed her book. It was very, like I said, it was good. It was just
Mhm.
so good and it was so practical because I actually know I can go back to the chapters that I listened to on Audible and see like what to do with this. And I know and I'm going to talk really quickly about what she talked about with religion and how as Christians and growing up black Christian is different than any other culture because we're taught you get to the altar, you pray, God's gonna fix it, you're gonna leave here different than how you can, and you really can. However, it's just like me praying for you, and the Bible talks about, look, now the Bible teacher come out. The Bible talks about laying hands on the sick and they will recover and all those things. Yes. And on top of that, God gave us herbs for whatever things that we're going through as far as high blood pressure, diabetes, eating right. Is all these different things that we do for our physical, but for some
Mhm.
reason with our mental, we just
We'll talk
I
about it.
it's like my mind, I'm okay. I'm okay. Ain't nothing wrong. And we're so quick to call people crazy. But
Mhm.
have we taken them to the doctor,
Mhm.
which is the therapist, so that they can get well? Because if anything on us aches or anything is bothering us, that's the first you can't question anybody about that. But for mental health, for some reason, I don't know where that stigma came from, but it's just, because we're some tough people. I think that's really what it is. Because anybody that can have your husband ripped from you, your children, you've been in survivor mode your entire life.
For
And I
400
believe that
years.
we're like the first generation that's not in that role. So
Mhm.
that was more than what I'm supposed to say again. But yes. But anyway, she taught me about checking in with myself. That was the biggest takeaway that I got. Checking in with me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think there are so many jewels throughout this book, and again,
Hmm.
I think an excellent pick. So again, kudos to my brother Isaiah for recommending this book for this month. But just an excellent way to start the year off. And again,
Mhm.
like I quoted before, you need these tools prior to being in the situation
Mhm. Mhm.
because it helps you to better navigate it. One of the things I really found interesting was she kind of talks about again, and it's the black experience. Some of the things we have to go through, within the workforce, within education. So we talk about code
Mhm.
switching and assimilation of like almost thinking that, you know, once you get out of a certain environment so that you've made it. But also the trauma that can come along with that,
Yeah.
moving out of the so-called bad neighborhoods into the suburbs and, taking your kids and putting your kids into the better school systems, which, you know, theoretically should make them a better student, but now your child may be isolated. They
Mhm.
may be the only black person or a person of color within
Hmm.
that school district, and even the trauma that can come along with that as well. And so I think as a young professional, like I think we all kind of strive to those things of trying to better our lives, and I think we often think that those are the paths forwards to obtain those things, but
Mhm.
that was kind of really of an eye opener for me because I didn't think about that. I mean, we see that often. We make a little money, we move out to the suburbs. You want to give your kids everything that you didn't have growing up,
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
but
Uh-huh.
not realizing that there could be a positive and a negative impact. To those decisions, and now your child could be on a situation where they're on the island because they haven't had that cultural experience of being around people like them as well. So I think for me, that was one of the eye opening kind of moments or topics she really touched on because yeah, I don't think I thought about that because like I said again, typically we just think we got a little more money, we can do better financially. I can put my kids in private school to give them a better start in life, but there could be some consequences to that are unintended as well. So that was really an eye opening kind of theory and topic that she kind of touched on that I just really didn't think about. So
Mm-hmm.
all right, coming to Kim Lake on this topic. So any new discoveries, any things surrounding mental health that you know, that really stood out to you, or even things that you didn't necessarily agree with that was covered in this book, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rita Walker.
I think what stood out to me most was her, well, not, I won't say most, but her tips and everything on suicide. I know growing up, when you heard about suicide and people killing themselves, like, we don't do that. Black people don't do that. But how she was saying now, like, I think we're leading, like, especially our younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really
Mm-hmm.
shocking to hear. But all the practical steps she talked about with checking in with people. Also, ultimately, how she kind of said, if someone is going that route and makes that final decision, there's really nothing you can do. So it kind of helps people too, like survivors of that, because ultimately you're kind of powerless at the end of that situation. So you shouldn't hold
Mm-hmm.
yourself, accountable or feel guilty, even though that's a human reaction. But ultimately,
Right.
her saying that if they make that decision, there's nothing in your power that you can do to stop that. So I thought that would be helpful for people to know. And also, she talked about suicide, but the slow suicide, a lot of people do. So it's like having high blood pressure, not taking your medicine, or having diabetes and not eating right, or if you're stressed out, or if you're not doing your annual checkup. So there's a lot of ways that we slowly kill ourselves, but we don't realize it because it's like, oh, it's not the regular suicide we think about. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of destructive things that we can do to ourselves that over time can shorten our lives. And so just checking in with that and saying, like, okay, I'm not taking care of myself in this way. Why am I doing that? And getting to the root of that. Also, because she talked about family members as well. Like, your family member's not taking care of themselves, but you kind of enable it or ignore it. So just not being an accomplice in that either. So,
Mm-hmm.
and holding them accountable and letting them know
Mm-hmm.
so they can be aware. But I just thought that was interesting how she did talk about suicide, but also the other side of it, how we can slowly kill ourselves and how we can check in and kind of stop that destructive cycle.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that is good. That's good. Yeah, even around the suicide discussion, because I think one of the things that really stood out to me was she mentioned suicide is not a crime, just as dying from cancer is not a crime. So I think, especially in our culture, we kind of think about suicide in such a negative term, but and it's a sad situation, but literally that person has gotten to the point where they feel like that's their only option, and so it
Right.
is a mental disorder. It's mentally something has you know altered their reality to believe that there are no other alternatives and no other options. And just like cancer, or any other things that we don't have control over. I mean that's kind of in the same lane as well. But I think we often kind of attribute suicide to someone just not having you know the tenacity to kind of overcome a situation. But again, is I don't think it's far from that, and it's much more involved in that. So
Can I piggyback off of something Kim said earlier? When she said about suicide, when Dr. Rita Walker said that when someone commits suicide, like it's nothing really that you can do as a family member or person who actually has to stop that because when they've already made up in their mind, and that's something that has always, I wouldn't just say ate me alive, but it is something that I was in the back of my mind with a family member that I've had to view their body. And it was like, it wasn't a conversation that I could have had. If I
Right.
always like say, like, is it a sign that I could have picked on? If it's just like
Right.
one last word, could I say something? Did I brush off a conversation that I could
Right.
have just grabbed and held that person on just to say we want you here? And it always has just that was one of the things that always bothered me that I had to speak with somebody about. Like, what could I've done or could I say it? But I like that idea of how she put it. It didn't less ease the pain, but it made you more able to deal with about if that's made up in their minds, it's nothing that you can do at this point. I
That's very
mean,
true.
and that was the hardest part of trying to accept it. So when I was saying, like, when I was reading that part, like, it was like she was ripping all the wounds off that I
Yeah.
basically suppressed. Like, I was like, oh, we
Yeah.
going this deep route, like this is deep, it's going deep. But I realized, like you say, that practicality, like she just kept hitting you on the head with it. Like, these are the tools, this is how you can cope with it, these are the tools to get you to the next step. So like that really resonated with me about, if that's in their mind, it's
Same
nothing.
here.
It's nothing
Hmm.
that you can do about it.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
even when she started speaking about it, I was like, I stopped listening for a while because I was
Oh,
like,
I didn't want to read anymore.
this is too much right now. Like, this is okay. But you know that, like Kim said, but at
Hmm.
the same time, you're like, but I think I could have said something.
Something.
And that's the thing that I don't think people who had those suicidal thoughts don't think about is the people
Hmm.
who are close to them
They're
that
left
want them
behind.
here and what we have to go through after they're gone because you're replaying conversations over and over like what could I have said, what could I have done, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't matter what pastor, what preacher, what family member tells you, it was nothing you could do. You still feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's something I could have done,
It's
you
done.
know
Yeah.
but
Correct.
anyway.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, that's good. And again, it's just so many different topics, surrounding this. I mean, we talk about, like I said, therapy, anxiety. We're touching heavily on suicide, even medication. Again, all of these are
Mm-hmm.
tools that can be utilized in your process. And it's not just you know, you go to a therapist and then everything is good. Sometimes you may need medication, or
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely.
even like I said, again, you may pray about it, but then you may need to see a therapist as well. So just so many different factors, and I feel like she did a good job of kind of care like covering the whole wide spectrum of what's available, what's out there. Um,
Hmm.
but we've kind of talked on it, touched on it a little bit, but kind of want to get you guys input as well. So, were there any particular strategies or I guess kind of advice that you really took from this book that you really want to put into practice yourself, or that you would even share with someone else that may be struggling with mental health issues, or just as an overall wellness step? So again, I know we kind of you may have already touched on it, but was there a key strategy or a takeaway that you really want to kind of foot stomp in that area? And I'm coming to the rear on that one.
Okay. Well, I kind of said all my answers all through. But I will
Uh-huh.
say guilt and shame was really the underlying toe of a lot of what she talked about, like not feeling bad for getting help, ways you can help yourself or help others, getting rid of the stigma. And I really feel um, um, like for instance, when my father passed, nobody that was around me, and it wasn't because we weren't smart intellectual people, but nobody really was like, you need to go to counseling, Loria. Everybody was telling me it's a process. That's all I kept hearing. It's a process. How you been doing? I'm like, horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, when
Mm-hmm.
am I going to start feeling better? Because I remember when I stopped crying 3 times a day and it was like 1 time a day. And I was like, oh, good. I'm at 1 time a day. Everybody keeps
Mm-hmm.
telling me it's a process. Nobody was giving me no kind of, because now, people say, oh, here's my therapist. This was just 2012. Nobody said anything. I'm talking about, and I know a lot of church people from pastors to nobody. People would take me out to lunch. People would say, how are you doing? They would check on me, but nobody said that. And so when I was reading
Mm-hmm.
her book, I was like, this is so helpful. Now I forgot what the question was, but I just had to say that part. But it really, because I just feel like there was
Uh-huh.
so much. Oh, and then when I did go and I would tell people, it was more like, well, why did you go to counseling? And I was like, because. And Kim will tell you the first time I went, it was like a
I,
weight came off of
I was about
me.
to say, I mean,
I was a new
I taught to
creation
read before and after. It
Not a
was
new
a
creation.
180. It was a 180.
because
I was
that
like,
man gave me the tools. It wasn't but an hour conversation, and he went right in from my body language, told me what was going on. He could tell from the way I sat down, the way I was moving, the way my body was, the way I talked. He knew what was up. And I mean, it was that simple. Boom, 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 boom. If you give me the tools to do something, I'm okay.
Mhm.
And it was like, I mean, I said, what have I been doing for 6 months? And I just went on my own. I just went on my own. Nobody said, let me make an appointment for you. Here you nothing. So to read this was like so refreshing. And I just hope that the guilt and the shame of going to see a therapist is taken away. If you need to get on medication, it's taken
Mhm.
away because oh, you're on Prozac. We try to make people feel bad for making decisions to help their mental health. And you can't do that. So that's one of my takeaways. And whatever the question was, it all fits up in
Make
there.
it fit together.
Yeah. I think for me, there were so many jewels throughout this book, and again, it was
Yes,
just so practical. And it's probably one of those things you probably need to read multiple times because again, and
most
depending on what
definitely.
stage of life you're in, what may be
Mhm.
going on, certain things may resonate with you more. Um, the thing that really stood out to me was, we do often use this subjective kind of notion of saying how we feel. As someone asks you how you doing, oh, I'm good, I'm all right, or whatever, opposed to an objective scoring system. So I think Laria kind of mentioned it as well. Like when you have to put a tangible number on how you feel, I think it changes the whole overall like narrative of kind of where you are. Like people say I'm fine. Like you just we've been conditioned almost to say I'm good, I'm okay, even
Hmm.
when you're not. But when
Mhm.
someone asks you to rate how you feel, I think that it requires you to kind of snap out of that mindset of, oh, I'm good, I'm okay, or
Hmm.
I'm all right, and to really think and sit with your feelings of how you are in those moments. And so I think that was a very good thing that not only do I want to start doing for myself, but even when I ask like friends and family as well, like instead of asking them like how you doing, and I used it the other day, man. It was crazy because I read this book and one of my homies called me, and he was having some issues. Like, bro, like, how you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, one being everything horrible, like you
Mhm.
don't want to be here no
Mhm.
more. 10's like, you living your best life. Um,
Hmm.
but when you just ask like, how you doing? Like, oh man, I'm good, I'm all right, and like we just kind of
Right.
gloss over that. And so that was definitely one of the things that I definitely want to put into practice, and continue to use going forward because I think it's so much more valuable than just the subjective. Oh, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm well. But asking someone to actually to rate their feelings.
Mhm.
Um, and another thing was, and she kind of touches on it. I can't remember what chapter it was, but the whole like shooting yourself,
I
like
remember that.
so
Mhm.
uh like I should have done this or I should have did this or they should have done this. And so and really the guilt and the shame that comes with this shoulding aspect of like, what could have been, and really trying to find another word to replace that or another way to express that because saying what you should have could have done doesn't really
Mhm.
serve you in those moments. And so that was one of the
Hmm.
takeaways that I it really kind of stood out to me as well, and just kind of understanding that again there's some things that are out of your control, and so making the distinction of what you can control, what you can take care of versus what you can't, and trying to navigate that a little better. So
Hmm.
all right, Kim, coming to you next. Any key takeaways, strategies that you had that you want to put into practice or take forward from that you gained from this book?
I'll say, like you and Larry mentioned, checking in with yourself, but with a score. Your
Hmm.
personal fortitude, I guess how she called it, your score. Because a lot of times I know with me, I can get on autopilot and not realize you're just, living life, going through the motions. And then you look up, you're like, where did the year go? What happened? But when you really check in with
Mhm.
yourself and assign yourself a number, you can really truthfully see where you are. And I like how she say if you're at on a scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 6. She says, just take small steps to get you higher. I know a lot of times it's kind of like a diet, and I can be like this too. Like if I'm at a 6, I'm trying to do everything and change everything all the same time. You get overwhelmed with that and even more stressed. But she's just
Yes.
saying like, hey, just start with taking a day off. Or she's she said start with like little things that add up over time to get you where you want to be. And I think that was a key takeaway for me because I like to go all in. So I'll try to go on 10 and then I'll burn myself out and I'll be back at a 6 or something. So just taking those small steps when I feel like I'm not where I want to be, small actionable tasks and steps I can take that over time will get me where I want to be in my personal fortitude or my skill. So I
Hmm.
really enjoyed that part of her advice.
Good.
Hmm.
I need to learn that numbers thing of checking in 1 through 10. I need to learn how to do that daily.
It's good. I told you I do it in the shower. Like, where am I today?
Where am I
Where
today?
am I today? I
Where
think
am I
today's gonna
today?
be a 10.
And how she's saying, like, if you had a 3, just go on and take off work, take
Go and
that
take
Hmm.
personal
out.
day.
Go and take out work.
All right, so again, we just wrap up this book, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by
Hmm.
Dr. Rita Walker. Great way to kick the year off. Again, I advise anyone uh, to check this book out. It's
Hmm.
definitely for the culture. It's definitely for the people. It speaks to us specifically. And it talks about just some of the nuances that we go through, some of our daily struggles. And again, I think the key word that we've all touched on is like practical and practicality.
Hmm.
Like I don't know how you get any clearer, how any more direct than what she lays out. I mean, even from what your psychological fortitude is, mental health, anxiety, suicide, depression. I mean, she covers the whole gamut and even gets to the point of helping you to identify how to pick a therapist. The difference from a psychiatrist and a like it just she goes through everything. I mean, she just touches on so many different topics. So definitely a good book, a good read. It was highly rated here on Four Friends in the book, so we definitely think you guys will like it as well. So if you haven't already, pick it up, listen or read. It's definitely worth it. All right, so Four Friends in the Book podcast. Not only we talk about books, we like to get into what's going on as well. We touch on topics that may be trending at the moment, or just things that are going on within our city, state, country, the world. And look,
Hmm.
you gotta be under a rock because if y'all haven't checked out this January episode, Club Shay Shay
Shay
and Cat
Shay.
Williams,
That's right. Club Shay Shay.
Riveting.
Club Shay Shay.
I mean
For
a
sure.
3 hour long interview, but it has the world turned upside down and Cat didn't hold back nothing. I mean, he just went in on a whole bunch of stuff. Talked about a whole lot.
Mm.
Again, 3 hours long, and it's amazing. I mean, the interview has only been up for like 7 days. 43 million views already. It's just crazy. So, I wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on that. Just the interview overall, but also one of the things that really came out. So there was a discussion about mental health.
Hmm.
And the topics have kind of come out because even people have historically called Cat Williams saying that hey, like he's not there. He's an office rocker. Um, but one of the questions that Shannon Sharp kind of touched on, he asked Cat Williams about Kanye and some of the rants that Kanye has been having, and so Cat kind of touched on that topic and kind of spoke on it. So just wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts and opinions. So overall, just the discussion between Shannon Sharp on Club Shay Shay and Cat Williams, and also even his response to kind of just mental health, um, and even what they was kind of talking about
Kanye.
with Kanye West. And look, again, another quote, man. Your boy love write quotes down or whatever. So Shannon asked Cat like, how did he feel about Kanye and his rants? And so Cat Williams' response was, "I suspect that we are pretty awful people if we say that somebody has mental issues, then watch what they do." So almost essentially saying that, we're saying that this person has mental issues, but we're not doing anything about it. We're just sitting back and then watching it and watching
Hmm.
it unfold. So wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts again. His interview on that show has definitely gone viral. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts about that overall, and also on the aspect of mental health, since we are talking about that this month with the book we just wrapped up, "The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health" by Dr. Rita Walker. So I'm gonna open up the floor, man. Who wanna tackle this one?
Isaiah.
Yeah, bro,
I'll
you wanna jump on it?
I'll go. This with this Kanye topic. Here's my issue with Kanye or Ye or whatever his name is for today. First he has even convinced himself that he's a genius and he's misunderstood and he's going through these things and he lost his mom. But a lot of people have went through issues, and that doesn't negate the things that you have done. You have to seek something, a higher power, something, and talk with somebody about the issues that he's going through. I used to be a fan of his, and this is the same dude. He was born in Atlanta, raised in Chicago, but now all of a sudden he disregarded his own culture. Growing in the suburb does not exclude you from knowing about your cultural accountability and the things that you have seen in the public. Even his dad was a Black Panther. When he wore that infamous red hat and that shirt that said slavery was a
Choice.
choice. I think that was
Hmm.
that was it for me. I got off the Kanye boat and it was like I can't deal with this guy anymore. Using your influence correctly would have been having a conversation with the ex-president to further enlighten him about the issues and the struggles of Black people. But instead you use that for that political gain or whatever, that power stroke that you thought that because you were speaking with him that you gained this exclusive power to this, I guess, this one man pony show. But as dope as a artist as Kanye is, I'm just not willing to ignore the ideas that he projects on the progressiveness of Black people. He has too much influence not to be held accountable, so others can pretend that he's doing okay, and that they are agreeing to what he's saying. But that's not cool with me at all. I just don't even like engaging the topic about him, and I'd rather even watch a documentary on chopsticks to even talk about Kanye anymore. Because he is a prime example about this brand influence and how people actually justify, their favorite artists of saying stuff like this, because they say they are a fan. But I can't be a fan of something like that, like something that some people that has these type of radical views, like I just can't agree with that anymore. And that's just my take on him. I wish him the best, but I just can't, engage in that Kanye thing. Like it gets to a point, but it becomes too much. And like, you're detrimental not to me. So you have to seek somebody because I just can't deal with it anymore.
No, that's good.
And I mean to rant. I'm
Uh,
sorry.
Laria, coming to you next. So again, just any thoughts about just the Club Shay Shay Cat Williams interview? Also talking about Kanye and mental health, and even let's take that a little further as well. Do you think that since he is such a public figure and that we are seeing some of this stuff unfold, like publicly, has that kind of, I guess, shaped the narrative or changed the narrative as far as how we view or the perception of how we view mental health in today's time opposed to what it may have been historically?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think that in our culture, if Kanye were Caucasian, it would be a completely different story. Because I mean, we've seen it with mass shootings. It's like, oh, his mental health was bad, and so if he were, they'd say, oh, he's spiraling. We've really got to get him some help, and those kinds of things. But with him, because he's a black male, and our culture doesn't really embrace mental health like that, I believe that he's gone down a path that we might could have assisted in steering him in other ways. But I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I do know that Cat Williams interview was the best interview I've ever seen in
What
my
I do know.
life. What
What
I
I
do
do
know,
know is
that thing had me glued to my seat. I was
For 3 hours.
I mean, I paused it until I could actually go back. When it first came on, I'm gonna tell y'all, I watched Club Shay Shay. So when I first saw, it, I was like, "Oh, Cat Williams is on, okay," and it's premiering at 12 o'clock. So I was gonna go and listen to it while I'm at work. And I started listening to it, I'm typing, and I was like, wait a minute, because it was like the first 2 minutes, we already gone. And so I said, oh my God. I started texting people, this is this is crazy. So when he got to Kanye, I said, but a lot of what he said was so true. You know, what he said was the truth. We treat him as if he does not have a mental disorder because we receive from him what we like. We like his
Mhm.
music. So, okay, but people can do certain things really well and have a mental issue. And we've got to separate the two so that we can kind of understand what's happening there. But yeah, I enjoyed the interview on that end. What Kat said was so true. And I believe that we do have to start assisting other people with their mental health, even though they may be very good at their jobs, they may be very
Mhm.
talented in certain areas. That's just a testimony to everybody's not okay just because they do well at what they do.
No.
So,
Kim, any thoughts on just the Club Shay Shay interview, Cat Williams' mental health, Kanye, the perception of mental health in today's time, any of that? Go.
Not to add too much, but just to piggyback up on what Maria just said, I think when you are gifted in something, it
Mhm.
is more you people are more likely to overlook
that's so
things
true.
that may be going on with you, especially if somebody's a fan or you feel like you're getting entertained and you love his music and all that stuff. You can kind of overlook it. And even in your personal lives, if somebody, around you is gifted at something, it's easy to overlook issues. And I don't think if Kanye was, I'll say, a regular person, he wouldn't have got so much of a leeway from everybody, because it took for him to be super extreme for people to be like, okay, I'm done with Kanye now. But I mean, he was already out there by then, so
Right.
people,
Yeah.
I mean, people were
Right.
sticking with him. So I think
Right.
it's like a blessing and a curse to be that way, because people will let you keep going as long as they can get something from you or entertain. So I think
That's
that's
so
Uh-huh.
true.
sad, but
That's true.
yeah. So I think it's kind of a blessing and a curse thing. And just to close
Mhm.
out quickly, as Laria said, I love the interview. 3 hours, sat there, whole
Pure
family. I'm texting my
entertainment.
uncle. We going back. I mean, memes, everything. So,
It's
uh,
good. It
Cat
was
Williams has
great.
brought families together. I love you.
Not fabulous.
Look, who would have knew? Who would have knew?
Ah,
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. No, I agree. I mean, again, and I think the world agrees. I mean, like I said, I think when I last checked, it was at 43 million views. I mean, and it's only been out for like a week. So just crazy. I think, and again, there's been some controversy even surrounding Cat because they've called him to be crazy as well, and so there's been some questions about his mental health. I definitely think he highlighted some of the shortcomings that we have with Kanye because again, to Kim's point and Laria and even Isaiah, like musically, we love him and what he does, but it's very obvious that there something has changed, and I think
mhm.
honestly speaking, I think that the death of his mother was kind of the beginning of some of that change. And I think he was feeling himself with his career kind of took off, but I think his mother was a grounding rod for him. But after he lost that, it almost appears as if he's just out here on his own now. And so again, we talk about mental health and we kind of see it unfold, but you know how are we or what approaches are we taking to really ensure that someone is actually okay and well. All right. So again, we just wrap up this book, but you know what time it is. Our favorite segment of the show wouldn't be a show without it, which we entitle The Rant. 60 seconds uninterrupted from none other than Mr. Rant Man himself, Mr. Isaiah Tukes. Look, we give him the floor to speak his mind, to speak his heart, and your boy just go. I mean, again, we never know what we're getting. It's new to us. We getting it for the first time as well, but he be enlightening us. He be teaching us. And again, when that little vein come out his head,
Yeah.
he about to go in. So my brother, the floor is yours. Starting now. 60 seconds. Go.
Representative Johnson passed away on December 31st because of medical negligence after being left in her feces and urine just days after spinal surgery. Representative Johnson served in Congress for 30 years and retired in 2023. I think it's ironic for a registered nurse to have treated that way. However, the hospital nurses, just days after her surgery, left her in the bed unattended, according to her family. She had been lying in bodily fluid after the surgery and had called for a nurse over 30 minutes. She even called her family member, her son, who actually traveled to the hospital, who found her in that condition. This is how Baylor Hospital in Texas treated a black woman, a black congresswoman, a black nurse, a black mother, a black politician who served her residents for 3 decades. There needs to be more than a lawsuit filed against the hospital. Almost 60 years later, and Malcolm's words still resonate about the treatment of black women. And that's that on that.
Yeah, that's good, man. And again, we're talking about mental health, but again, it kind of all ties together, man. There's just so much going on. Even some of the inequalities within our systems that are supposed to help out and keep us protected and cared for as well. And so it's very sad to hear that. And again, and she's a public figure that's going through this. So
A
imagine
congresswoman.
imagine the people that don't have that notoriety or that national appeal or even the resources to
That's
share
true.
that story. So yeah, good rant, brother. Thank you again for always keeping us informed and educated about what's going on. All right. So again, we wrapped up the book, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health. Had our little discussion about Club Shay Shay and mental health as well. And my brother just killed his rant for this month. So Isaiah, tell them what we have coming up for next month.
As we start Black History Month, we're going to be kicking off The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. You don't want to miss it. Laria, please tell the viewers when they can tune in.
You can tune in every third Thursday right here with us on all social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. And make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. And if you listen to our podcast, please leave us a review to let us know how much you enjoy our podcast and being a part of the Four Friends family.
Absolutely. Again, guys, we just appreciate your support and your help and for tuning in with us here on Four Friends in the Book. And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow, and let's have a discussion right here on Four Friends in the Book. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.